is waiting on fries. That you don't get it? You don't. What do you mean you don't get waiting on fries?
Hopefully the customer never hears waiting on fries, but all this time on the entree and it's perfectly executed and then you're
It's
like,
ready to go.
I forgot to fire the fries.
I just always use that when I forgot to put somebody's order in, and I was like, hey, I'm just waiting on the fries. It's gonna be 2 more minutes. Realistically, I come back 10 minutes with the food.
Exactly. They just know that their food's not there and the server said they're still waiting on fries.
I guess we're just waiting on fries.
What's up, squad? Before we get started, make sure you remember NewYorkPrimeBeef.com and use the promo code FRIES15 for 15% of your order. Go get yourself some nice steak. Get your favorite person in your life, whether it be your lady or your best friend or just a second helping for you. Get some beautiful steaks, get some crab cakes, get a nice sampler. NewYorkPrimeBeef.com, FRIES15 gets you 15% off.
No shit.
I mean, we've been telling you this, so.
Cool. $200 free shipping, right? As long as you order $200 worth of...
Orders over $200 get free shipping.
And if you're worried about the $200, just do it. Get the free shipping, throw it in the freezer. It'll be good in a little while.
You won't regret it.
Yeah, I'm the only guy that doesn't fill his freezer with things, and you guys laugh at me all the time.
Well,
about it.
I'm not going to put it. I'll eat it when it comes.
Yeah, that's what I do. I go shopping for the meat, and I get the meat, and I cook it right there.
You go
I don't put it
shopping
in the freezer.
every single day. Every day.
It's like, I feel like it's the freshest when I just pull it from the deli counters, right? But now you don't even have to do that. You just do NewYorkPrimeBeef.com, use code FRIES15, and then you got a good deal going on.
Right to your door. You don't even have to go to the store.
Say no more. I'm glad we're all caught up here. We all got to watch Restaurant Hustle finally, and I didn't get to watch it the first day because cable is now a thing. Well, cable TV is a thing. We don't have it. I'm a cord cutter, and I'm proud of it. I stand
Discovery
up.
Plus is out now.
Discovery Plus is out. That's not how I watched it, though. I did get to watch it on Hulu Live TV, right? It was
With the commercials, or?
Yeah, there was a lot of commercials. Yeah, but sure enough, Discovery Plus is out. It's actually out now on Discovery Plus, which is cool. They actually have the most amount of content amongst any streaming platform out there, which is huge to be able to even say.
That says a lot, yeah.
We're in a huge war. But just, you were part of Restaurant Hustle. Christian came in here with the cameras while you were helping out deliver some pizzas. I saw the pizza scene throughout the thing where they were getting pizzas all over the place.
You didn't see Justin on it, though.
Yeah,
no, but we know it happened. Like, it was recorded during that time period. So you got to really kind of live part of that to some extent while this man was running around crazy, like documenting his life every 2 seconds while still trying to help out in the middle of a pandemic.
Well, I think that's the whole point of the documentary is that we all got to live a little part of that, and that just highlighted, it highlighted the full Christian, Marcus, Manit, and Antonia highlighted their experience. But if you're in the restaurant industry, we all lived through that.
It was, needless to say, it really brought back I'm a short-term memory guy. It brought back a lot of thought of going back through those pieces of time where we were just like, fuck, what do we do? Just like laying on a couch, like shit. I actually shed 3 tears, and Babe looked at me crazy, and she was like, "Are you okay? we lived this." And I was like, "I'm an emotional guy. Let me live, all right?"
To be honest, I had forgotten some parts of it because it just feels so long ago. Now it's like 10 months, and things have changed a little bit.
But watching it does help bring you back to those feelings of being.
Which is not some place I wanted to go back to, but yeah.
But it was good to go back there a little bit.
But it was good, and I'm
Put
glad.
things in perspective.
I said in one of the monologues, I'm glad that people got to kind of see the stuff that we or our industry had to deal with day in or day out. Although, I will say this. I thought that they didn't get deep enough into the real shit.
Do you think that was in just conserving time or thinking that the general population wouldn't be interested in seeing the real shit?
I think it was to save the general population from seeing a lot of
I think some of the real hard stuff might have been a little too much. Because by my take, a lot of people felt like that was really dramatic, and like you said, like a little gut wrenching, a little teary eyed and whatever.
I mean, it was.
Yeah, but that's like a brief look compared to actually living through that months and months and months of feeling like that.
Like you didn't really ever see the conversation where someone was forced with actually having to close their doors.
And that's a true thing. I mean, that would have ended their segment on Restaurant Hustle also, though, at that point. We wouldn't have the show to watch.
Good point.
But there were a lot of parts, too, where everyone went through the same things. And we've essentially been able to document this whole thing through the podcast, through all the episodes over the last year that we've had, too, where, we talked to all these guys that started to do pivots that were essentially the exact same type pivots that everyone was doing throughout this show. So it shows that, I guess, the power of being able to see what everyone else is doing through social media, where, Paul Pax did the pasta kits ready to go, right? Other guys were shifting how they did takeout menu items as well and doing packs for families where they wouldn't normally have, like, here's a thing that feeds 4 people and it's $65, right? Like, so a lot of them were doing things like that.
Yep.
Yeah, but if you want to talk about functional pivots, our guy Mogan Anthony, who we're talking to later on today, had made a pretty functional pivot during the pandemic.
Oh, with the Olo bands.
Exactly.
You see problems and you figure out how to solve them. And one of those problems, of course, is the fact that you need antibacterial soap. What's it called?
Sanitizer?
Sanitizer. Sorry. Sanitizer. And if you need to find it, it's just already on your wrist because you're wearing it.
Thanks to the Olo band.
So, yeah, we'll talk to Chef Mogan about that in a little bit, too. And I don't know, they kind of left the Restaurant Hustle open to this to be continued as if things are still being recorded throughout the rest of this time.
They did, and I'm excited about that because they left off kind of in September, and in September it looked like everything was getting better, and we were kind of through the shit, right? But then November happened, and December, and we're kind of back into a little bit of a downturn.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see that part covered, and see how kind of follow the stories, right? Although one seemed like it had a pretty solid ending.
I mean, we're 2 episodes into
one
the
of the stories is over as far as Fortina goes, right? But
being 2 episodes into the new year too, though, where we're in like this slowest period of time, and everyone knows this, of course. I don't have to reiterate it.
I'll tell you what, though, I was like I don't remember being that excited to watch something in a long time. Like I was I was telling my wife, 9 o'clock, gotta watch Restaurant Hustle all online. She's like, "Why are you so excited about this? This is my life, babe.
This is for me.
This is my life.
This is an accurate depiction of my life.
I was like, finally, there's some real shit about my life on TV that we can watch because no one ever does it. And whether it's good or bad, I'd like to see more raw, like real restaurant content and
like
see that
behind the restaurant, not like
I
the
think
John
it is
Tapper
interesting. Yeah, like not the
setup type
chopped,
stuff.
not the chops bad, but like
You don't
another genre of just following like real people and seeing like the real shit.
You want the entourage where you're Vinny Chase and the cameras are following around while you're running a restaurant.
No, that's all too happy. You need like the real life.
The
It's
real,
not
no,
always
like
a happy
the
ending.
real guys, like the real. It'd be cool to see. And I'm not saying
like
like
that.
me, but
I agree. I could
more
definitely get behind watching
more content
something.
like that where you see, or even if they follow one of those chefs but on like their day to day, like that's some cool ass shit, right? Because you see these guys on their TV shows or whatever, and you kind of forget sometimes that they're doing it too. But then you get to see like these guys like struggle and do the day to day and all that stuff, and you're like, that's just interesting. Like I would watch a show about Marcus Samuelsson day to day life.
I agree. And,
I would watch that.
And that's interesting too because they could actually cover hurdles that you're going through and trying to figure them out. And it would be, very beneficial to people within the restaurant and kind of rekindle some of those spirits, I'm sure. Somebody get Guy on the line so we could have a conversation about this with the
Pretty sure
production
he's pretty
team.
busy. He's probably pretty busy.
He's busy? Got it. We'll get through at some point.
Raising millions of dollars.
Talk about raising millions of dollars. We hit our first $1,000, which is a milestone in 3 weeks of having the cocktail garnish live, right? That's pretty crazy.
Congratulations.
So
Do we have a clap?
No, we don't need any claps. It's just a piece of.
We need
it's
a
just
special effect
It's
so we
just
can
a
hit.
piece of making the things happen, right? But now there's new hardships, and those hardships are the steady realization of that. If I want to put this into bars for people to save time, or restaurants for them to save time, instead of having to dehydrate these things in the back, slice them themselves, they just buy them at a fair price, a wholesale price. I wouldn't be able to keep up with that demand. I need somebody that has huge dehydration rooms. That way we can get this thing going. And I'm having talks with guys that are all telling me that I'm an idiot and I should jump off a cliff if I think that this could possibly work and make a profit. So, these guys don't know what I'm doing with this.
There's always haters.
Well, they think I'm selling dried fruit chips or something like that, right? What do you get for a price on a dried...
Hey, Stacy's pita chips went for like $1 billion.
I don't know what they are.
They sold to
The
Frito-Lay.
pita dip chips, kind of?
Stacy's Pita Chips. It's a brand.
Cool. I'm trying to figure out how to do that too. To somebody that wants to come buy this brand, awesome. Let me build it first, if I can. So
You can do it. I believe in you.
With these things being said, though, it's very hard to find somebody that can get you a price appropriate enough on drying goddamn fruit so I could just package it up and do what I need to do with it. But we'll figure that out as time goes on. And again, I think we can talk to Chef Mogan about this a little bit later on in the show and what he's doing as well with his Oli bands.
Olo band.
Olo bands.
Jay, I told you, I have a dehydrator, I'll sell you.
No, I need big stuff, dude. I need one the size of a truck.
Start small, work your way up.
We're there already.
Have you had any crazy requests recently?
There's always crazy requests.
Yeah, but at what point you gotta...
Can you be more specific?
Well, I mean...
I would like one
You mean
part
like
of
the
my
crazy
steak
request?
well, one side of my steak mid-rare.
To be honest, that's not as crazy as you may think.
No?
No.
That would rank like maybe 5th on all-time crazy requests.
What?
One time I was a bar manager at a country club, and it was low tide, and the woman whose wedding it was asked if I could bring the ocean closer.
Let me go dig.
That's definitely out there.
Let me go dig now. What about the time?
I'm not even kidding. I'm not even remotely kidding.
I believe it. I was working in the bar one time, and the kid rolled up, and I've told you the story before, where he ordered like 7 shots of Fireball, and then tried to return them after I poured them and charged him already. And he wanted to return them, and then he asked to speak to a manager because this became a customer service issue. And mind you, it's the middle of like strobe lights happening at 2 a.m., and I was just blown. I didn't even think this was a real thing. Like, that is my top ever.
I think the point of the story is sometimes the customer is not always right.
No, and I kind of agree, but we do in the hospitality industry go as hospitable as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
To accommodate needs because everyone's going out is different.
You sign up to always say yes and to always make it nice for them.
And you know that was... Nothing has really highlighted how that could be wrong sometimes in the last 10 months, just because you see how people... some people... But how you see how some people think the rules don't apply to them and they can just do other things. Because we've said it before, we've always been taught to never say no and all that stuff and do whatever we can to make the customer whatever. But you see through this thing, there's certain things that you have to say no to, and that people don't want to listen to, and they just make requests and do whatever. So maybe they're not always right.
Yeah, Melting Pot, we used to have the hostess, and I'm going back years here. We used to have the hostess, if they had time, run across the street and get slices of pizza for the kids if they didn't want to do fondue. And this was like the going above and beyond that like they really wanted to be known for.
I don't mind that as much though.
No, I'm not saying it's wrong.
That's not too
I don't
bad.
mind that as much. I would, if you put it in where the hostess does that on her own, that's hospitality, right? Like if it's, the kids are saying, oh, you know what? I went across the street and I grabbed this for the kids. That's hospitality. But if the table is like
for that to happen?
turns it around, right, and says, well, you don't have what my kid wants. Can you go across the street and get this shit for my kid? And then they expect you to do it because you're supposed to be hospitable, and that's where the disconnect is. So there's in one way it's acceptable, and in one way it's people have been trained to expect things.
I guarantee somebody listening had something very similar like that happen to
Oh,
them.
I'm sure.
So I was actually reading an article in Food and Wine magazine where somebody was referencing a situation very similar to this that happened during the pandemic. It was Chef Angie Kamara of the Beatrice Inn was talking about a situation where they were only doing outdoor dining because you can't do indoor dining in New York City, and she had a guest who she tried to explain that situation to, and the guest response was, "Oh no, I can't sit outside. I'm wearing Gucci," which is like ridiculous. But apparently people have feelings like that.
I mean, she was outside when she got there wearing Gucci.
Well, no, it's about the amount of time that she
I didn't
spends
even think
outside.
of that. I was like,
No, it's hit the outside
you're already
air.
outside.
It didn't crumble in the fresh outside air. Jeez.
I mean, that could have been the response. But, I mean, I say all this to say that apparently it's not just us who are feeling this way. Maybe this is a common theme throughout the industry, at least right now.
What do you think is going to happen in the next few months? Because you can't just keep dining outside. We're going to be having significant cold snowstorm days.
What do you mean? It's almost summer.
In some eyes, yeah, it is almost summer, but we still have a few months to go here.
Yeah, man. I don't know.
Come on. Come March, Brooklyn Summer Ale comes out, then it's March, and it's St. Patrick's Day, and it's April, and boom, there we go. It's
Well,
summer.
the man's got a point. We're brewing our shillelagh stout over at Diner already. So
And there's already Valentine's Day candy out in the stores right now a month ahead of time as well.
By the way, if you go all the way back to episode 1, which is about a year ago this time, that line was in that episode where I just said, hey, it's almost summer. Little did I know summer was going to bring COVID.
we're going to take a little trip, guys. A short little trip. We're not going too far away, but we got Chef Mogan Anthony in the building with us today.
We do.
And he's responsible for things that were coming out of Village Social, Rise Social, right?
Yep.
And not only that, but Locale Pizza Bar and Kitchen up in New Canaan, Connecticut.
Yes, sir.
So this guy's got his hands in a handful of things. I mean, this is a real restaurant group. There's a lot of places that live underneath this gigantic umbrella.
Yeah. Yeah, you know.
You started 2011. You came into the cooking world. Was that about the same time that you came in?
No. In 2011, I was already kind of working at Smokehouse for a couple of years, but
Okay.
Got it.
yeah.
And entering into the cooking world, literally your first spot as a sous chef was in Village Social.
Yeah, so I started in a Village Social as a sous. Prior to that, I was in a Barcelona in a Connecticut Greenwich, and then prior to that, I was in a John George in the city.
Very nice.
Does it seem like everybody worked at Barcelona at some point?
Exactly, right? Yeah, that was my shortest stint, actually.
How long were you at John George?
John George, I was there for like around, I think, about 4 years.
Oh, wow. So you really worked your way around that whole kitchen there, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I was actually with him in all the location. Like I was in a Spice Market, Paris Street. I was in the Trump Tower. So I was in that area. And then when I moved here, I started working Barcelona and Greenwich. It was a kind of my shortest stint. And then I jumped on a Village Social.
Explain John George to me, considering I'm a culinary peasant.
Yeah. I think at John George, it's so when I moved up here from Malaysia, and I always worked with like European chef. I always worked in a hotel. That's my background, like
Did you
hotel,
go
bar,
to
restaurant.
culinary school in Malaysia?
You know what?
or-
Actually, I went here and I went to culinary school here to take some certification. Not necessarily the 4 years.
Yeah.
I did not have a lot of money, but back in Malaysia, in Singapore, that's where I actually spent a lot of time. That I worked in a hotel. Like it's a hands-on experience.
Yep.
And the chefs are usually European descendants, and it's a very popular. Back then in 1997, 98, the restaurant groups are not popular in Singapore. It's all about hotel, a Michelin star restaurant. They gotta be the chefs are from Michelin star restaurant from France, from Germany. That's why they'll you don't really see a lot of Americans. So I worked as a waiter, food runner from the scratch. When I moved up here, I always wanted to work in a kitchen. I had a little bit of background working in a kitchen in Singapore. Moved up here. First, I got a job in Bedford Posting. The celebrity was opening up. His name is Richard Gere. Richard Gere was opening up a restaurant, and I was actually just kind of moved up here, and I said listen, I'm probably gonna go to school a little bit. I need money, so I worked in this Asian restaurant called Tangda. So I worked in an Asian restaurant as a server, bartender, pick up a slack, making some tapes. In the morning, I would work in a Richard Gere place in a Bedford Posting, and Bedford Posting was really popular back then. This is 2006, 2007. After like a year, and then I moved up to city, and then I started to work in my first restaurant was in a Paris Street, which is a John George's son was running it. His name is Cedric Van Gerichen. The father is obviously a John George Van Gerichen. So Cedric was in a El Bulli in Spain doing all this like molecular magical cuisine.
Yeah.
So the son came back, and the father said, "Listen, just run Paris Street." And he took over Paris Street. So I even worked before the son took over. So I got hired there, and then I started to work from the scratch. I never really was planning to take any position in the company, put it that way. It was like I'm still has that old school mentality where I want to work first 5 years before I'm taking on other position. So there was my grind that first 4 years working. I used to go to work around 6 o'clock in the morning, work on a spice market, making all these Asian street food stuff, spring roll and all that. And then in the evening, 3:30, I will run across the street, which is Paris Street. It's all in the same district. I'll go to Paris Street, then I'll work in Paris Street. It's a fine dining. And then I'll back home around 12 or 1 o'clock.
This is like youthful, spry
I'm exhausted.
energy that you have at this point to be
hell of
working
experience to be able
all
to work
day
with all
long, nonstop.
No,
I remember those times when they existed. I feel slowing down now. It's definitely happening.
Yeah.
You've been kicked in the mouth so many times that it's like, God, I can't work from 6 a.m. to 3 a.m. anymore. You don't have that same feel that you once did. But you came in and you said you had that drive, literally, where you said you wanted to do this for 5 years, essentially.
I tell myself I want to do this, and I'm not really planning to be a chef de cuisine. And I see a lot of people actually pass me and took the position. But I tell myself, because in my mind, in a long term, I always wanted to do like some sort of like everyday food. Like that's where my heart is. But I want to have a strong resume. I always had like, listen, either you take you have a good education, so you worked with somebody that, that really teach you some quality. So I went that route,
When you say too, though, that you're not looking to move up, you're essentially just trying to work all the different areas. You're pretty much saying I'm absorbing and learning as much as I can in this time period, as well as, of course, putting some money away, I'm sure. But do you think that you have more of an advantage in doing that, where you're not looking to advance and instead kind of just stay at the bottom areas and just see how every single little thing works in a restaurant? Or by a thing, I mean every single station or every single position.
Every single area, just to be able to understand everything, it gives you a better foundation.
Correct.
So I worked in all the position from salads to, preps and cleaning and everything else, and to the grill station and, like CDP or whatever that. But so my planning when I was working for John George was like, of course, I tell myself that I want to learn and I want to know how to do the butcherings and everything. So I'll go extra hours to do and work for free and so on. Though one of the reason I was not really planning to take any position or when that route was, I know that I don't want to be in a rat race in the city. Like I realized that after like 2 years in the city, I was like living in Queens. I was paying half the amount of a rent, and I was like kind of like a mid-20 to I'm gonna be like hitting 30 in a couple of years. My wife was a pastry chef. She was working for WD50. If you know that
Very
guy.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So and both of us is like, listen, like we work so much. It's like I see you 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
So listen, we really want to be in the business long term. We should have some sort of plan. So after a couple of years, we realized that. And then I say, like, listen, I want to learn as much as I can. And then when I go on my own, I know what am I doing, And people actually kind of are willing to invest on you. Like, hey, listen, you have a John George on your resume. That was a good, but I'm talking about like 12 years ago, So I don't know if it's all, really needed now to have all those names, but back then it was really helpful.
Well, we see that through everybody's resume and everybody
Yeah.
that we've spoken to. Everyone's kind of essentially worked for free to some extent. Well, not for free, but you know what I mean.
Right.
You
Just
put in
to
your
pad
time
the
somewhere
resume.
just to have that name on your resume, so
You
it
can
helps
say
you in the
work.
next place.
You could say for free.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot of free work going on.
Very,
so-
very true, very true. I actually did works for free for him. I usually do. So when you go to Trump Tower, on top it's a 3 Michelin star restaurant. That's a John George. They charge $320 a person back
Yep.
in the day. And then downstairs, we'll do all the grinds, which is they call it terrace, and it's another name for it, but it all supplies the Trump Towers, the in-room dining, and all that, and hustle and bustle.
So it's a separate kitchen essentially.
It's a separate kitchen, correct?
That winds up fulfilling orders for anybody that dines in their rooms.
Yeah.
Where else?
It's
would
a
they
room
be?
terrace. They call it terrace, and there's one more name for it. It's like a casual part of the dining.
Okay.
So I used to work there, and whoever worked there, and they get chosen or get picked to work in the Michelin star place up
Yeah.
in the kitchen.
It's like the proving grounds before you make it up to the big
exactly.
leagues. Yeah.
And then you get like they will put me on randomly to do like a mush bush and all that. That was like a big thing back then.
You ever see the crazy hotel show? It was on Netflix for a while, and they take you through all these tours of these insanely large hotels, and they'll ask a question and say, hey, how many restaurants are in this place? And they'll go, oh, there's 14 restaurants in this place. Or not restaurants, but kitchens, like specifically kitchens to fulfill orders for all of the guests that are, staying in these hotels.
Yep.
Which is, it's crazy to see that. So when you're working in that type of atmosphere, that's really, you're like learning a lot though too, as far as how to prep all the different items that are going out, and everyone has their own little piece of a section.
Yeah, and so one of the good things about working at a Michelin star restaurant like that is when you start out on the salad station or something like that, you're oftentimes doing some of the most intricate work that has to be done at that restaurant, and someone working the first course station, everybody who sits down is going to get a plate from your station, so you've got to be on time, you've got to be precise with everything you do, otherwise it slows up the service for the entire rest of the kitchen and the rest of the restaurant.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Very true. I think I read this quote from Ferran Adrià, and
That's the
he
chef
said
at
that
El Bulli.
from
Yeah.
El Bulli's, and he said that you're rather serving a sardine or know how to clean the lettuce properly than cooking a lobster in an average restaurant. So I think that's kind of like how I see it. Like, I'd rather work in a Michelin star restaurant, making $9.50 an hour, learn how to do all this fundamentally correct.
Yep.
Rather than I would have just worked $15 an hour in the city back then and making more money, but that wasn't not. I know that in the long term, I will have some sort of like kind of building like a speed track so where I can jump off the curve, you know what I mean? So I spent the first, versus a lot of people nowadays probably opposite. Like, let me know how much is that an hour.
It's crazy to what you just said before too, where in New York here we do live in this rat race where we are working nonstop, and you see other parts of the world where everyone's a little bit more leisurely.
Right.
Simultaneously though, we have a advantage in where we are because there's so much more business to have.
Very
and you
true.
have to choose your trade-offs. So where you're saying that you were paying way too much money in rent living in Queens, down in the city, wherever you are in the city, you're paying a lot for very little. Versus now here, where we're 30 minutes outside the city, 40 minutes outside the city, depending on how far up the line you go, where now you're paying maybe the same amount of money for a fucking castle. I live in a castle.
You get a lot more, but paying those city prices, you're still in the city in the middle
live
of
in a
it.
castle.
Not literally living
You
in a
don't
castle.
even have a dining room.
This guy sells
I don't
sex and he
have a
lives in a
dining
castle.
So it's interesting to see that, and so many times I think about things too. When you talk about creating businesses where you're shipping things out, New York's a great place to live because it's such a dense population of people that are ordering things from you. So say you're selling the Spice Rub online, right? There's a thing, if anybody hasn't seen it, the Spice Rub you can actually buy from Smokehouse online.
It's called tailgate rub.
Thank you for
It's
correcting me.
spice
But all
rub.
I'm saying is that in this Northeast territory here, it's easy to have a huge amount of people that congregate and come out to places, and the shipping on items is extremely cheap because it's not really going that far, as opposed to selling something to California where you're paying max shipping to get all the way across the way.
Very true.
So to me...
Well, actually, your right point there was not California. You should say like Iowa or something like that, 'cause it's cheaper to ship to California because there's more hubs.
Correct. And no, that's a very valid point, and we should dig on that a little bit later too. So after you really spent some time in here, you put your quote-unquote 5 years in, quote-unquote, right? We didn't actually do the 5.
No, I didn't do actually 5. I actually ended up doing actually 4. And
Pretty damn good. You
That's
got
That
it.
is that is very
Close
good.
enough.
it's good.
Close
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
Close
Close
enough.
enough. I still did about 4, and after 4, I think I started actually got a job in a Connecticut in a Barcelona, and I remember was making a lot of these dishes, and it's a very Spanish environment, so I couldn't really use my creative what I learned from John George. Right, John George about like Asian cuisine. His mentality is like using that Asian citrus vinegar as versus everything reduced like a really French stock. So he does slightly different. So that was a really good skill to learn. So I couldn't use apply what I learned. So I got some recommendation from somebody like to actually that looking for people in Village Social. And Village Social just opened up back then. They had some different type of menu, and I actually went there and took the position actually as a sous chef. Back then they had a chef, and that was in back 2011, I believe. It's probably even March, I believe, in July. And I took the position there, and then I actually kind of stayed on, and honestly, I don't really like to work in a place more than 2 or 3 years because I know that I wanted to grow and I wanted to do just like any other chef. I wanted to but Joe's a great owner. He had this like a neighborhood restaurant. From there, we actually opened up Locale, which is like very, very different because I don't have any experience in Italian cuisine, and it was a learning curve, and I had actually great time learning those. And we went to open up Locale in New Canaan in November, probably even in October 2013, and it's one of the busiest locations we have. And it's never even closed for pandemic, So I was grateful to learn that because after a couple of years job, I became a chef, and then I also become some sort of a managing partner for the group, so culinary director, whatever you call, because I still work, and I become that guy that, hey, listen, like let's study some concept and probably implement that concept and so on. So what I realized that, and I was coming close some of these articles, and so like a Westchester, a lot of the Italian, like Westchester, very popular back then for like a lot of this Italian and Greek old schools. And one of the articles that I read is about, like most of the old school restaurants are like 25 years, 20 years, 15 years. And these owners are getting old and they serve the meatballs and so on. So the millennials, they're looking for fun environments. And that's why you see like Pulpatinas and you see Dibari, which is a cookery. I love that place, and Parlor and all that's coming up. And Joe, which is he himself an Italian, and he says, look, listen, they'll be cool because I love wood fire. So that's how I kind of got involved. And actually, that's one of the passionate projects that I ever worked. And because we bring this guy from Italy, he shipped his bricks and stone and to set up, because we were said, hey, we want to get the best oven possible, wood fire oven.
So you shipped over bricks from Italy to build your oven?
Yeah, that was a
pretty
fun
badass
experience, man. Like his name is Stefan Ferrara, and he's a very, very known in a wood fire pizza communities, and he's a very older guy. He's a third generation Italian built oven. So through one of our connection, we brought this guy as a consultant, and he's made it very clear that he's not going to use anything locally, and he's got to come from there to call that.
What's so special about the bricks? Is there like a special quality that they have above standard brick?
They were blessed by the Italians.
I mean,
he swear that like the water, the product, the scents, and whatever they use, it's actually the best, and he's gonna stick to it. And the product got stuck in a custom, and he will never, like you gotta pay for this guy to stay in a hotel and motel,
Right.
and you have to bring him all this, like strip club in the city as well. So it was really fun experience.
So he's laid up in a hotel on the company dime while everything's held up in
everything's
custom.
sitting custom.
Yeah. So the product's stuck in a custom, and my partner, so he will put this like all, you cannot look at the way he built, right? That's it's a fun experience because you go and see, he will tell you like, hey, listen, like you can come and talk to me, but you can't see, right? And then
So he's got like a curtain up over the stove so you can't see?
Next day he put the curtain, because you cannot steal the craft, and then that took us a little bit of time to build, and that was a hiccup, but like we said, like we were invested in this concept, so that's where like that first concept started, and it was a kind of a learning curve for me. I was like, oh, this is although like when we opened the second location, we got somebody more local to build because we got smarter.
Yeah, that was my next question. Was it worth it in the end?
Exactly. So, but it was a fun experience because I feel like after like a couple of years as a chef, and when you take on all these positions, you kind of stop learning. So this was like my time of like learning something new because I never really worked in Italian restaurants or learning how to make a pizza. So I had a great time doing it. Like although like it's all kind of changed my perspective. Like it's a good pizza, it's just done very differently.
And you were still running the other restaurant while that was all going on, or no? Or
so the good thing is that was our second location.
That was the second
in 2013.
Okay.
That was like a second location. So I had a chef working in Village. I will usually go back and forth, but that was my second.
Okay.
You say a very valid point, though, of you don't really like to stay in a place for more than 3 years. And I think that it's extremely beneficial to leave when you know that you've gained all the experience you could possibly gain in a place and see other things. And by that, I mean ways other environments act or put their entire establishment together, because not any two owners are doing things exactly the same. And it can be dangerous at times for guys who have been in the same place forever, not seeing the way anybody else operates, because they're missing out on areas where they're not as efficient and they would never know unless they saw it firsthand. So what you did was, how many spots were you in before you landed here with the restaurant group?
So I was in Barcelona, Paris Street. I was in a Spice Market. I was in a John George. I actually would work on my day off in some of these like a random location in a city. Michelin was one of them. I actually, that's funny that I got fired from a place in a city called, the restaurant called Aziad. It's in a Mandarin hotel. That was one of my first job. Actually, I got fired. That was fun.
I mean, it was your first job.
Yeah, you know what? It's actually that's between my transitions of leaving John George. I think I went there. I got fired. It was a very union place. You have to take a break means you got to take a break. It was a very different environment where I was not used to it. So I'm just going against all the rules, you know. And then I was really kind of young also at the same time. And I think I called there was an Asian chef was an executive. She's a very good looking lady. I think I called her sexy or something, and she kind of hated me for that. But I got fired after like a month or two. I was just not. It's a very
Structured?
No, it's a hotel. It pays you a lot of money, $23 an hour. I remember until today. It's ever higher than I ever got paid, even until today. Like I think it's $23, and it's a union place, right? So union, you have to take the break because you get into a lot of the gray area. And I know that usually like I set up my station. When I go down for break, I take my time. I make sure like my station's all set. When I come back, I feel good, and then I'll kind of like sneak in the station and eat. Like I do very restaurant style because I worked across the street, which is a John John. So I went back there. I think I got fired. I think the third month, they don't really have a firing. It's like after the third month, they won't confirm the probation period. Like, it's like, they try you out for 3 months. I think I went back to John George again and then come to Connecticut, So that was a fun experience.
When you came up here to Connecticut and went into Village Social there, the first thing that you're kind of doing is feeling out your environment. And you're talking about now being like 40 minutes north of the city where things are a lot more laxed out here.
Right.
We're not dealing with the same volume of people. You're not dealing with the same type of people. And when you walked into this restaurant, it was your first day, your first week, did you feel that immediate difference that said, I feel comfortable here?
Yeah.
I know things, or I'm going to learn a lot more from these guys because it's a lot more intimate of a setting?
It was just different because when I first got a job, kind of let it go for like a couple of weeks just to see what's the environment. And it was, I definitely tell myself, like, what did I get myself into? It's just different. So I had, until today, we cook everything. A lot of our skirt steaks are very popular. We always cooked on the CVAPs or we cooked on the sous vide. And I've been there for 10 years. So I've always done the same. And I consider, but it's a lot of hard work to teaching a neighborhood cooks to do all these things. So when I went there to do all this, I definitely shoot myself in the foot because it took me a long time to teach people some of these like new cooking styles because I'm very like a recipe orientated. I have to have everything down the gram. It's 2 grams of salt mean 2 grams of salt. Like I don't do cups and so on. No matter how I do it, that's my almost like my
grams all the way through just so it's uniform and consistent.
Exactly. Yep. So I had a challenge in the beginning, like teaching because I used like kombu, fish sauce, like all this like umami, and these neighborhood guys are like they're comfortable. Yeah. Like we tell them to do like bolognese and all that, they will do right away. And then if I tell them to do some sort of like Asian fenugreek, like dude, like what is this? Like kaffir lime leaf? Like what am I? Like where is this? Like so
in a way, it's like all those new techniques and stuff that you learned in the city just kind of hadn't made their way out to Connecticut just yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was a very different. Like I had definitely my moment, but I also see that once they know, they're like a machine.
Yep.
So like that was good. Like in the city, that the cooks,
everybody's like got their own opinion and their own ideas.
Exactly. Yeah. But here, like, all right, this is good. You can apply what you needed. You can, so. It was definitely a shocking in the beginning, but I kind of like push it through it. I take a lot of note to get through all these things, That's including Joe. Back in the day, was our owner. He was also hands-on general manager. But like end of the day, I kind of find my kind of comfort in figuring out the menu, what the customer looking for, and kind of take on my style of the menu, like which is like a lot of the Asian, so that I could figure it out. It's like just to be honest, like Malaysia social menus they don't have like some sort of identity. Like you go there, we have Chinese foods, we have like tacos, we kind of all kind of crap on the menu. The section of the menus are really good. I put a lot of effort. The section of menus is just for everybody. That means like, you come for the taco, you get a taco, So I kind of focused on the section that really, I think people come on weekend, they enjoyed. The section that people comes in every day, I try to keep it very consistent, So I kind of learned all that in the beginning, like, okay, this is just it's not worth it. Like I would go home 2-3 o'clock in the morning, setting up CVAP, setting up sous vide, and I'll come back because it's going to be like almost one-man show because the kitchen guys are not equipped to do that. And it took me a long time to pass it over to them, but it definitely a very different, people come and try my food back in the day. It was a kind of different for them as well. I think if you go to a restaurant, if you go to Locali, you have a calamari, people will tell you what's your favorite calamari is. Listen, man, like I like calamari from there because, it's Italian, it's connected to them. But if you go to Village Social, it's delicious, but you don't know what the heck it is. Because we have like all these umami flavors and kombus and so on. So it's give you that flavor, but you just can't pinpoint. So a lot of people will usually ask me recipes. Like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And how do you do this? How do you do that? So it's kind of in the way that they know the delicious is exciting, but like it's become a secret weapon where like how they don't know where the flavors come from and so on. So that's where I like it.
Do you give out the recipe or do you keep it?
So you know what? For the most part,
because we've had that conversation. Where some guys don't want to give out the.
No, for the most part I give out the recipe because my recipe book's actually in a restaurant. Like people take it. At some point we were actually working on a cookbook, so I stopped telling them like this part of the recipe don't give up. But for the most part, the recipes are in the book. If like some of this like a new chefs and manager comes in, they will just give it to the people. Like, hey, take a look at it. I have people that usually take a screenshot for, because they want to know how you make it and so on. Yeah. But that was always been my kind of like a secret where like, you don't know what it is, but it's delicious with all these umamis and so on. So that
just makes it exciting.
Right, it's exciting, correct.
Yeah.
As we've been working on getting this hot sauce to market, and everyone's got to sign their NDAs because it protects your recipe. You just did this with the spices too, I'm sure.
He just always comes out of left field and he's like, we've been working on this hot sauce, and I have no idea what he's talking about.
So in doing like, such, though,
you just refers to we all the time.
Me and the squad in that specific moment. But everyone's signing their NDAs to make sure that they're not stealing your recipe. And in my head, I am the least amount worried about anybody stealing a recipe because people eat with their eyes and associate the way that you're selling something. So they're going to get our hot sauce off the store shelf because it looks appealing against all the other hot sauce bottles. And it's not dog shit, so they're going to enjoy it. Now, somebody else might have a real subpar label with the exact same logo, and they're not going to sell a dime worth of the stuff. But yet, it's the same stolen recipe, right? And I think Dan was just saying that last week. You want to know what's in my ranch? Fucking ranch. I took the first recipe on Google, he said. And sure enough, he's got so much praise for these chicken sandwiches he's doing. Interestingly enough, in speaking to him too just recently, what episode was that? Last episode? 2 episodes? Somewhere. 2 episodes back. He was saying that now opening up the Birdhouse, which is a to-go environment completely. Just call, you get your order, and you peace out. It's really designed to be in and out and quick. And
just to fill you in, he's talking about Dan Cardos that we had on.
We
had him on. 2 episodes ago. We had him on and we were talking about that. So he was talking about the Birdhouse. What he's talking about
fried chicken, right? He does that fried chicken sandwiches. Popular That's great. Yeah.
I need you guys to fill in my Rain Man moments.
He was going off on a tangent. I'm trying to just bring him back.
But you talk about concepts and different things that work, and your partner in this is Joe, correct?
Yeah.
So I know that you guys have talked about a handful of different concepts over the years and figuring out what to bring to market. And it seems like when you stack all these concepts in the back of your brain over the course of time, they might not work in that very moment. but they might work 3 years down the line when the timing is right.
How many concepts are you running now? So you have the Village Social, you have
Pub Street.
Locali,
Fat Root.
Pub Street. Okay, so that's what, 4?
Yeah.
And
Do you get lost sometimes?
You know what? I actually got lost during pandemic because that was the hardest.
Okay.
I have to say that I have a very steady group of people that actually worked with me, left and come back and worked with me as well. And I was kind of lucky in that sense.
We get like the same kind of thing. People leave, people come back.
Exactly. You know, people leave, so we pay people and treat people right, and we had a great relationship. A lot of people that actually left, it's got to be for the right reason when they leave, whether they grow, they stop growing in a company. So we had that. So a lot of these guys would kind of call me, and I never I've been with the company for 10 years. I could call anybody right now, they would answer my phone call. Like I had a great relationship with all my staff. Even I let it go, they will like after a year they become somebody and say like, thank you very much, you did the right thing. You're like, I don't think so, we good, but I'm your customer right now, I come in and so on. So they would answer my phone. So I had a great relationship. I gotta thank God for that.
when we went into, I guess, the height of the pandemic, where
I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off again because I'm still curious about the different concepts.
So different concept,
Yeah.
So yeah, for just to let you know, we don't simply open any concept. Like when we did Fat Root and noodles, we were in Japan literally. We fly to Japan, we spend time in Japan. Like I worked in a ramen restaurant in Japan to make the noodles and soups and steamed buns. We were working, so we invested. Same goes to Locali. We did the same. We brought a consultant that know what you're talking about. The only thing was like a lot easier was a Pub Street. Village Social already exists when I took over, so I spent a lot of time. I love to do some research and do things right. That's always been my kind of feeling. So it is difficult to run 4 restaurants, having 4 different concepts, 4 different recipes, 4 different team and crews, like a little lost when they work on this side versus the other side. But what I did was, I always has this mentality, choosing 4 people in the kitchen and take care of that person. So they stay with you and work with you for long term. So I invested on my chefs and a couple of my lead cooks. So they always been my go-to guy. And I always had that kind of a mentality where you will have always a revolving team, 1 or 2 team members, but let's take care of the team member that not revolving and kind of invest on them. So probably pay them really well, paid vacations, extra time off, family, emergency leave, whatever you can think of. So I had a chance of keep things very consistent.
needless to say, you probably have a very small turnover rate in these restaurants in typical times as well, because people don't want to leave. If you're treating them well and they're working for you, they want to stay there.
I agree 100%.
I think that also creates less headaches than having to, put up Craigslist ads every couple weeks just to refill the spot, because
Well, you never use Craigslist. You just get crazy people from Craigslist. You never get anybody good out of Craigslist.
You know what? You're very right. I got a chance to pull somebody from the street, probably does a fantastic job than actually Craigslist sometimes. Although I get a couple of guys here and there, but you are right.
Mike posted the same. He's posted the same job several times. We haven't had any turnover in the kitchen for like 2 years, but
that's great.
Recently we're opening a second location, so we know we're gonna have to bring new people in. And he posted a job on Indeed or Craigslist or whatever it was. He got the same 5 people applied the last time we opened the job. It's like two of them came in and did a trail, and they're just like reapplied again. It's the whole thing. Well, I'm curious, when you get to the opening the other locations, right? Where do you get? How do you decide? Okay, we're gonna open this next location. Is it just like in the desire for a certain type of food, or do you find yourself sometimes, because we have this problem? Mike and I have been doing Smokehouse for 13 years, so it's just straight barbecue. That's our concept. That's the menu we have to go into, and that's how we execute. But
you have so many other ideas.
Yeah, we have other ideas, and we do a special on Saturday, and we have this and that. And then we have to kind of reel ourselves in, okay, and we have to say, that's not really, it doesn't fit in our brand, right? We can't just start doing, Wagyu ribeyes on the side, and our brand is like barbecue at a reasonable price. So then you start thinking of concepts outside of it. Well, if we want to do this, maybe it'll work in this kind of concept. So in my roundabout way of questioning is, do you come up with a concept and say, we think this will work in a market, or is it born out of getting into kind of a certain kind of dish that maybe doesn't work in one concept, but say, well, you know, we can build something around that?
So we have all these brokers, I'm sure, that reach out to you guys and say we got locations here, location there, all that, right? So we say no to a lot of these places. Like we build all these places like course of 10 years, like not overnight, you know. So we take a look at the location, we see whether if that location, that town needs, you know, like for Pleasantville, they already have Italian restaurant there. They already have some sort of like a old school delis and like, you know, like, Latino spots. So we really don't want to compete, getting into the neighborhood and try to compete. So we say like, listen, that would be nice because what you short see is it's actually an oyster bar, seafood place that actually can fit into this. And we kind of see what really the neighborhood needs. And then we kind of squeeze in the concept. We never try to squeeze in a relationship concept everywhere. They're bigger menu. They're like almost like a Cheesecake Factory type of operation. We know that it's not going to work everywhere. So we hate to kind of squeeze in just because like we success. And we weren't success in Rye for first 2 years. We've been there for almost going to be 4 years right now. After the third year, it's kind of a took off. It was just difficult. So
Right.
what the location needs, what are the options in town, we take that into consideration. That answer you.
Cool.
I want to circle back to Joe though, and finding a partner that works. As you came in here, Joe doesn't know you. You don't really know Joe. You just are kind of feeling that this is the right place, and things are working out correctly, and you're learning a little bit, and you're seeing how they operate. And at some point, you take that leap where you guys become that much closer to the point where you've got this harmonious relationship to then open all of these different concepts down the line as time goes in. And I think that's a rarity for a lot of guys to find in their business partners. How many times do you hear these stories about business partners being complete nightmares? And, it turns out that it's so often. I mean, my uncle's been partners with his business partner for like 30 years now. They're technically like married almost. Just same thing that you're in. You've had a long stint relationship with your partners. What makes a partner great in your view? And what are some of the hardships that you guys have endured over the years in trying to make various ideas work?
So it's a great question. So I never planned to actually partner with Joe or Joe partner with me. Just I happened to be in the right place at the right time. And I also one of the chefs that will tell you that I never get into the business try to open multiple restaurant. It was not my plan actually. I actually went there as a sous chef. I got promoted to chef. I had a great time working. But I always wanted to do I'm from Malaysia, so I always wanted to do like some sort of a cool street foods. I want to keep it, that's me, my family, my wife is actually from Malaysia as well. So we wanted to keep like that. That was my long-term plan. I even remember getting into working in Village Social in my first week. I talked to the manager and he kind of like, Mogan, I like all these foods. You probably like, I'm sure that you're doing something. I told him like, listen, you want to partner with me in the future? I want to do a noodle bar or something. That was so I would say like I just happened to be in the right place at the right time rather than, and number one. Number two was I put a lot of work into that place and developed and figuring it out. I think I got invited for CHOP on 2011 or 12. I went there. I think in a dessert round, I kind of lost on the CHOP. But people loved us, they supported us, they will come and watch the show there. So it was kind of like bring a lot of people and buzz and so on.
Do you remember the dish that you made that didn't win?
That I never win?
Yeah.
Actually, I had a shell in my squids. so I served the squid. So my dessert came out really good, but throughout the, my courses, I had some flaws, So I actually had great relationship with Joe because I kind of like when they're not expecting to be a partner. Hey, the restaurants makes extra $1 million right now. I never I actually went the opposite. Listen, and he actually invited me when he actually went through a little bit of difficulties with the partner back then, and he said listen, I need people. This is a machine here, so we need somebody. So would you be? And I even say no to partnership and locality and all that. And I don't want to be in this one. I'm a very, back then, 10 years ago, I was a typical chef mentality, right? Right now, I see myself more on that kind of a restaurateur, the businessman, because I'm not going to lie to you. You will never see my social media like I'm pretend cooking and flipping pizza. That's not who I am. I work on things that needed and the focus and what needed attention and so on my level. But you will never see me like a flipping and try to be on a social media. You almost never see me on social media, But having said that, just to go back to that, I had no expectation. So that puts me in a position where that I don't have to like ask for anything. So I was in a good place. Joe recognized it. Joe had a sleeping partner that actually recognized it, and he said like, let's start with this. And when they did locally, and they asked me, I said, listen, I have zero knowledge about Italian. I have no interest. And Joe said that, listen, like, I really want you to be part of this. It could be good for all of us. And then that's kind of started to, like working a little longer, getting to know him and his families, and he knows my family. We create. Is that a challenge? Of course, he sees from different lens sometimes, and like than me, and nobody is right or wrong. I think that's the way it is as our partnership goes, I guess. I'm sure that just you can probably
You need different perspectives to help bring it all together.
Exactly. Like when I started there, he always say like, Mogan, I don't care about your special. I need you to put a lot of effort on our burgers, right? So I remember like I used to kill these burgers in the blue cheese and fish sauce and all that and try to figure out. And then I went for this.
Sounds good to me.
That sounds like a pretty intense burger.
There you go. And then I went back to the very simple. Until today, we do the same. We put our burgers lay on kombu sheets, and then we sear the burgers, right? So all our burgers, when you go at 4 o'clock, they're all sitting on these kombu leaves.
How long do you let them cure like that for?
We cure them like throughout the service, but it has to be an hour before 5 o'clock. It's at 4 o'clock, it's got to go in. And so we do that until today, sitting in that salty kombus. And that's all I started years ago. Like, I don't even have to, So what I'm trying to say is like, we have a differences, we had all these things, but I kind of know that it's part of that kind of a journey, I guess.
So, all right, so we got the four concepts going all over, everything's going good, and we hit the COVID. How does that work? You see one concept work better? Did they all? Well, let's start with March. What happened? Did you close down?
So March 16 we closed down, right? Like March 15 we were sitting down, we all looking at each other. We're making like, instead of the restaurant makes like $4,000 or $5,000, we're making $800, right? So we really kind of lost, and we are big.
I remember that day.
That was that Monday, and I was already out of work.
Right. So you're, like I'm more like a culinary director, so I know all the numbers in all the restaurants. I was like, dude, like this is not good, right? So every managers are calling, so what's happening, and so on. So we say, listen, we're just gonna close it for right now until we get back and see what's happening. There's a lot of uncertainty. The only place we kind of kept it open because of what the customers are looking for was our locale in Newcastle. So we kind of, because that's a pizza place anywhere, people to go, because that place had like 20 seats, that's all. So it's a to-go place. It's set up for it, right?
Okay.
So we left it open, we closed other 5 locations, and we kind of like on the phone and figuring it out on the insurance and this and that. Everything was like a bad news for us because nothing really, but we say that, okay, so this is a March 16. Fast forward, we have so many different conversations with me and partners and all the different managers and general manager. Fast forward in the May, we started to have a discussion again, like reopening. So we wanted to open like kind of end of the May or whatever. So we kind of pick and choose what would be there. So what we did was we took a locale in Mount Cusco and Village Social in Mount Cusco, we put them under one roof. So we started up without opening and turning on lights and electricities and cost you a lot more money. We say like, listen, just put it all under because it's all to go anyway. And we went on to go. It was actually working to the point. Like it's a combination 2 concept and a Village Social is coming out.
So from March until then, you only locale was open. Everything else was closed. So 2 months, everything was closed. And then
2.5 months, almost 3 months and some, we just closed, right? And that was like 2.5 months into it, and then we opened locale in Village Social under one. And then another month we opened Rye. Another month, so we kind of reopening. And it was a shit show, we lost a lot of our partners in the business and chefs, everything for the right reason, but they have family, they have kids, like when we reopened, we couldn't pay them the way it is because it's a to-go place.
Right.
Some of them able to take this one, some of them find it's better not to take that so that they have an option from the government said it's better for them. I will never blame any of them because I would do the same as well. So we kind of took it, and we're like, whatever is that able to work, and whatever that not part of those benefits, come back and work. We'll figure it out. So it was a very so that's a part that the full concept is so confused.
How much percentage of your staff did you lose at that point?
I would say that I retain most of the staff, and I would probably lose around, I would say maybe about 20%, but somehow they all coming back right now. You know, like they kind of tried enough things outside, they all actually coming
Well,
back.
at the beginning of summer, you were seeing all
yeah.
these hiring sprees happen after everyone was on the couch for
Oh
so
yeah,
long.
the summer was hot. Yeah.
And they said,
You guys managed to hire?
well, I wasn't doing any hiring. I got hired.
Got it.
I got hired in places, but I was laying on the couch for so long. And at some point, when summer started coming in, everyone was realizing, wait, we could serve tables outside, and people want to eat outside anyway. So it was like a free-for-all all over the place where everyone was hiring at that point, trying to bring back guys that were laying on the couch like me,
Right.
but they were just taking the unemployment checks and happy with it, where they didn't wind up going back.
So by the time we could reopen, like dining, right in New York, hey, did you have all the concepts locations back open at that point or not?
We don't have anything. Our last locally was the last train station that opened. Basically, that was I think that was open in probably September. That was like
Okay.
yeah. So
So
you
even
know,
through summer, you still didn't open
yeah,
everything.
that place never
Okay.
opened. But
Okay.
we gradually opened one location at a time, giving us like a month. Open this a month, okay, let it run, and then focus on the other one. That was a difficult one.
So while all this was going on, when were you hatching the idea for the Olo Band thing?
So Olo Band came out.
I
when-
wouldn't be able to think of one other thing, by the way. If I
Yeah.
had to figure out
It's
how to
incredible
open
to
4
develop a
other
product.
restaurants and this and that in a month, I don't
Well,
know.
explain the Olo Band.
But, yeah.
Olo Band was a fun idea. So Olo Band was really a fun idea. Like I was staying home. Listen, like it's 2-3 months is a lot for chef, and just probably you can vouch for
Yeah.
that, right? So I'm staying home, right, and I manage all this business, and my value to the business, it's my creative inputs, right? I don't go and flip it, but make sure the guy flip it knows what he's doing, right? So so that is my biggest value to the business, being that kind of has like creativity. So when we stay home after a couple of weeks, I'm not, like I make a comfortable living, but losing all these restaurants at the same time. And you must understand we don't have any investors and all that. We basically like we have a loan that need to pay back, right? So
We're very pro no investors.
exactly, So I don't have. So when we lose the business, you still have a loans to pay back, right? So after like 2-3 months, it's kind of creeped out on you, like dude, you so much you can hug. I got 2 kids and wife, and I got mortgage, and so on. So it's a difficult. But what I realized when I used to go back and forth between restaurants and all that, or opening, like always forget my sanitizer, and my wife always like has a sanitizer for me that kind of like as a band she will cut here and there, and she always like makes sure that I don't forget, because she's a little bit of like worried because we have 2 young kids at home and we don't really have a lot of family members here. She's like, Mogi, you can't get sick, and I want to be really careful, right? So I used to go and I always forget, and then whenever like I want to use it, like I always like have to like look for all this and I forget and so on. So when I came up with the ideas, I said like I just want to came up with Olo Band that straps on you. Whenever you want to use it, you just press it, you use it. It's on you. It's kind of connected to the time back in March and May and so on, right? So that's how kind of a Olo Band. It came in just kind of solve my problem first, nothing else. And I always been besides reading cooking and so on, I always read like a very challenging entrepreneurship. So before I sleep, I will look at like how like a Carnegie Hall makes money, and how back in the day how like Rockefeller makes money. Like those are the documentary I watch. I don't have a TV in home. It's only computers, no TV. I have books, and that's all. So my mentality always towards more like doing some things for like meaningful and what people likes. I'm excited about those things. You know what I mean?
It'll be 3:30 in the morning, and my girl rolls over, and she's like, "What are you reading?" And I'm like, I'm learning about how to increase conversions on the website to sales. Like, what? It's 3:30. Go to sleep.
Exactly.
But you essentially, from an entrepreneur's idea, is you pinpointed a problem that existed, and that was the fact that you need the antibacterial soap or whatever it's called. Right? Sanitizer. Thank you.
Sanitizer.
Thank you. I need you guys. I need you. So you forget it at home, but you can't forget it if it's on your wrist like it's a watch, pretty much.
Right.
So these bands actually slap onto your wrist, and if you press them, they will disperse a little bit of the sanitizer.
Yeah.
So the Olo band is crazy because when you're sitting around, your back's against the wall, you're seeing debt pile up in some areas, you say,
Right.
how do I get out of this?
Right.
And sure enough, any hustler will figure it out. And you did do that. So the Olo bands you just told me retail for $17.99, right?
Right.
So, and they're refillable.
They're refillable.
And
correct,
super
yeah.
convenience. It's
Right.
made of plastic, I presume, right?
Yep, it's a silicone, eco-friendly, so you fill it up and that's it. It's give you about 22 to 25 pumps, depends you use it, and it was just I created actually for like servers and managers and, and then I kind of find the niche where like sports industries, so we kind of like become a lifestyle. So it was a fun, I had a great, I actually didn't know that it's going to be like that serious, to be honest. We work with like we contact like a Malaysian, Indonesia, China, like see who's affordable. We were contacting a company out of like Colorado. They, like if I need to do that Olo band in Colorado, I have to charge $49. And I said, listen, like this is the last time you want to charge sanitizer ban. I want to be very accessible and affordable. So we got some sort of offshore that we talk, and they say like, listen, we probably can create these, and your price point can meet around that 15 to 17, and that's going to be great for sales. So I said, okay, that's great. Like that's something that
How hard is it to discuss overseas? And I'm reining this back to when I would do streetwear, and we would get our clothing manufactured in India.
Right.
And a lot of times you're doing things over Skype, and there's a lot of loss in translation because although on the other end they can understand English, they might not understand what it is you're trying to do or how you're envisioning it
You
designed.
you speak the language though.
Yes, so Malaysia, like my wife is a Malaysian Chinese, and I'm actually Malaysian Indian. So like Malaysia has like small group of Indians and Chinese that moved like 100 years ago. So I don't really speak any Indian language, but I speak Malaysians, Indonesia, a little bit of Chinese or Malays and so on, right? So it's kind of easier for me. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, comes to language. But it is difficult. It's not easy. So this is what happened. So we got this drawing, right? I got all this drawing, like, hey, this is a cool idea. Let's draw this. Let's something that, like, not what. Because back then in March 16, 17, and 18, when that time, there's only one company has sanitizer which has been out of Canada. Right now you can see 3,000 of them, right?
Yeah.
So it's cool, like always like that, right? You have a good premium product, also you have a drop shipping product, probably you know it. And that's like get printed anyway. So, and then when I was working all these, I was like, it's cost you $680 to some sort of a patent the product, right? $680, put it on your credit card, right? We'll figure it out, at least it's patent protected. So we worked on some cool patent. My wife, being a pastry chef, she's really good in illustrating and sketching. It was kind of helpful for me. She can take the idea, she can draw. We found a lot of jobless people are looking for a job. So I came across this engineer who was looking for a job to do on these sites like Upwork, Craigslist. They're looking for things to do. So we found these people with some sort of like a better, like, hey, listen, I give you this, you give me that, tell me. So that time, a lot of people are looking to do something. Like I actually, without these people, I don't think so I could continue. So we had a sketch, we had an idea, and we found the guy, and that guy is looking for a job. He's an engineer out of, I think it's Colorado, and he used to be in New York, moved to Colorado. He's like a designer engineer, so he can bring a product in a 3D dimension to life, like you can show how they look. So we paid in credit cards and have him to start it, and he kind of like, put some together, and I thought, that's cool, that's easy enough. And then we found a manufacturing guy. This is a white dude out of Utah and Wisconsin. He'd been traveling between. And this guy speaks pure Chinese.
Oh, wow.
He's a white dude from so we found this guy online, and he said to me like, listen, this is a great idea. Like, and again, like people are looking for a job. You know what I mean? So it's not just me. So it's a weird time.
Yep.
So we found Eric, and Eric is looking to do something, and he speaks Chinese, and he's kind of a consultant. So he took the project, and we reopened the business again. I kind of said to Olo, listen, like we're reopening a restaurant. So Eric, I don't really have a lot of time. At that point, I put like some money here and there with credit card. It was not really like an investment of large amount, right? And he said like, dude, you put $600, you have a patent. Drop shipping guys can't copy you, right? Number one, big box won't copy you, right? Which is Amazon. You just got to send them an email and say that, hey, you have a design patent, because 99% design patents are guaranteed, because it's not the other patent, which is a functional patent. I forgot what you call that. That is the hardest patent to get. Design patents are guaranteed, right? If it's your company, this is the product, when they recognize all of. So I was like, all right, so you should not stop. What I can do for you is I will continue to work on this. When we really go into that really deeper, we'll figure it out, right? So I was kind of lucky, found some people. So I went back to open all this restaurant, and I was not really paying a lot of attention to Olo, to be honest. Because this kid used to work in China, used to work in Taiwan, and he speaks like excellent Chinese, and he writes Chinese. He's an engineer. Dude, I gotta give him a lot of credit.
So how many of these bands have been sold to date today?
So what we did was, when we put it on the website, we only sold through Facebook, right? We probably sold like about 300 just on Facebook alone, nothing else.
Awesome.
All we was looking for, like I work with a couple of these college kids and like somebody that like this, all they're looking for, like who really buys it. So we have some sort of like a data, like who really buying the product, right? 50% people buying it because of me. Like they know me, they're a restaurant, hey, listen, support this guy. The other 50% of people really want a solution, like mom buy for the daughter, sister buy for the brother, like New Year resolution. People want to be clean. And then the travel industry, like that we're talking to, was like huge, because there was like I came across, because I was back home. I sleep very less. I worked in Olo, like there's a time that I spent 22 hours working in Olo, like literally, because you got to deal with all these Chinese and like Malaysia and like all these different Vietnams, all this offshore company. So I would like work like 22 hours. I go to a restaurant, come back, I sit. And then your job start 10, 11 o'clock at night, because you're talking to all these people, right? So I recently, like not even recently, probably a week ago, the travel agencies are like reaching out to us. They want to figure it out, a safe way for people to travel. And those are the industry I never even thought of, right? And then they see there's so many people that want to travel basically in 2020, they couldn't travel, right? So these people are gonna not make sure their tickets are not expiring. They want to travel next year. They're traveling with the kids. They want to be minimalistic, because you want to go through all that with that. So these companies are reaching out and say like, hey, listen, like, can we buy bulk from you? And this guy from out of New Jersey, listen, like all I do is like supplying to colleges and supplying to like institution.
Yeah.
I want to buy a bulk. Like I didn't even actually product here. So we were grateful like that. So it was a kind of a fun project, turned into like serious and getting to like kind of like serious. Like my wife handled a lot of these emails so that I can go to work. If anything important, they will call me. Because listen, honestly, I'm not passionate about sanitizer. I'm a real cook. I'm a chef. I'm passionate about restaurant, but I'm passionate about solving a problem. That's all I care.
Yeah, and when Delta calls and says they want branded Olo bands to give out to all their everybody that flies Delta, you're passionate about that.
Exactly. So that's all. Like I'm passionate about solving the problem. Yeah. It was all great. I had a great time, but things kind of got serious. Put it that way.
Are these being drop shipped somewhere?
No, not yet. So our first shipments is coming in probably end of the month, right? Okay. That's our first, a few thousand units coming in.
Because they have to get here.
Which takes forever. Yeah, it takes forever, as you know it. We are talking to like a Chinese and a Vietnamese company, so you're probably going to figure out what is going to be end up doing it. in the beginning, I'm so caught into Olo. I even did like figure out how to cut or create Olo out of like a used tires, right? Like figuring out how to be more friendlier because I love eco-friendly product. That's what I want to support. But you know what? Whenever you come up with all these ideas and projects, they will never be like all eco-friendly.
Yeah.
You can't make those impact in the beginning. You got to start somewhere. I realized that after like long conversation with these people. So we went with silicon. We went with offshore. We want to meet the price point. So now that things have got like kind of serious, we are talking to some of this area that we never even thought of that we're going to be talking to. Things are good so far. I can't really complain. I'm glad I tried it. I think it's kind of kept my brain going for those 2-3 months that we closed. But it was I would say that it was challenging, interesting, but also like I learned a lot being that problem solver and figuring it out and having fun and all.
So when do we get to watch you on Shark Tank?
Shark Tank. So kind of funny.
He's too smart to give away 20%, 40% of his business for a little bit of money.
Just go to Mr. Wonderful. You get $1 until his money's paid back.
Right. You know, I think a Shark Tank, they don't necessarily take. They have like about 80,000 applications or something, like a ridiculous amount. It takes a lot.
Yeah.
I started my just kind of introduction, everything on my like social media. People that buy that few hundred units, they all know me. Dairyland, Baldo guys, like my salesman, like people that know me, they buy it. For me, I think it says something people trust because right now I'm just selling the story. I have a product that tested, although the products still we can make it better and we're working on that. But my anxiety is like we really don't want to go into that like paid channels and huge. You will probably never see them until like the product's really here. People test it, they're happy, it's working.
And it's always great when your friends are supporting and they're buying things that you're doing. It's nice, it's a pat on the back, but you really get the fortification that you're doing something correct for the masses when it's the people that don't know you that are actually purchasing the thing. And like you said 50% of the people out there are seeing Facebook ads or something like that at that point, and now you have a pixel to target that actual demographic that is buying the fucking thing, so you can save some money on the long run by targeting the people that actually matter that are buying it.
That's correct,
And not saying that our friends don't matter or anything.
Right.
Justin laughed at me for a little bit, and then he decided it was actually a pretty decent idea in the summertime when I would show up to work having to wear this mask all day while bartending in Governor's Island. One of the kids was just like, "What do you mean your breath smells? I've been drinking coffee all morning, dude. I haven't eaten. My breath is kicking under this mask." He goes, "Just stuff mint in there. It works." So I slapped some mint around. I threw it in my mask, and I was walking around with mint in my mask all day. And I was like, "Dude, we just invented the mask mint." And I looked it up.
That's
and
a cool idea.
I mocked up the idea, and I mocked up something that would clip to the top of your mask that you could buy refill cartridges that would essentially make it smell like beautiful mint in the inside of your mask.
Very true.
So, like,
There
call
you
me
go,
when you
Jess.
want to go into business here on the mask mint, right?
I did laugh at him for a second. And I was like, all
Kinda
right.
makes sense.
But the struggles, though, and to highlight the struggles of doing such a thing is there's a decay on how long that's going to work for. And you know how long it takes you to talk overseas to people and get things built and brought back over here. Mm-hmm. It's almost not reasonable unless you're very well connected into all the different factories overseas that could bring this thing to life fast enough and ultimately decide that you cannot get to market faster than we're going to be wearing masks.
That's right.
I mean, we're probably going to wear masks for what, another year or so, God willing?
Hopefully.
Right.
I think that's a whole other topic, but I think in our industry we'll be wearing masks a lot longer than everybody will. Like,
Probably.
I
Public-
don't think the
public
public is going to be
perception.
required to wear masks to come into a restaurant, but I would bet it's more likely than not that the service employees would have to wear masks for at least another year or two.
You would never have thought that we'd never see the day where it was more important to be wearing a mask than not be seen scratching your ass while you're walking around the workplace.
Equally important.
I'd still
Equally
think
important.
I don't think that's overcome. Yet, so.
Chef Mo, tell them where to find you and check out all these plates that you're putting together online. I know you say you're not part of the Instagram community and you're staying off of all that, but some of these guys are going to look up the restaurants and see what you guys are putting together over there.
So they always can look up. My personal Instagram is Mogan Anthony. You probably see it. Most of the time, I spend a decent amount of time in Fat Road, actually.
Okay.
That was one of the last locations that actually we kind of struggled and pivoted from Chipotle style into like almost like a noodle bar. And that's where I spend actually most of my time. I have a chef, and a lot of my chefs that came back to work in all the locations. So I'm kind of like grateful that I have a pretty good team. Then I spend in a place where like they actually needed me the most. So Fat Root, like my handles are like Mogan Anthony. Probably they will see randomly on a Olo band as well. But beside that, I actually don't, I usually pretty good about like whenever people DM me asking questions. A lot of actually chef, to be honest. When I did Olo band, a lot of chef actually email me. I got an idea. Can you help me out and so on?
It's funny how that works.
I give them my personal, hey, listen, like I don't really on social media too much and checking all these messages, but like
That's how we did it.
Yeah.
So you want to come on the show? Say here, text me.
Right. So text me or like
But
email
not
me.
you all. I'll text them. You guys.
Yeah, right. So I give them my personal information. Like I know like a bunch of guys reach out to me like, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. Can you see where did you do like your branding and all that? And honestly, I never paid a dime to do any brandings. I worked with a chick from Romania. I worked with a chick from Romania for like $75. And she's the one came out with the Olo logo, so on. But what I say to her, like, listen, I'm gonna take a picture of my wife drawing. I want to make sure that you incorporate that into the elements. And this girl sitting in Romania, and she worked out and actually she sent it to me. And you could find those information in a design called 99design.com. Probably you know it, so which is a very popular site. People probably thought like we are big in investment. No, like nothing. Like I don't have investments. I don't have any marketing agency. Everything we do, like we do it ourselves. We don't have actual product, so we have to create a like CGI product to put it on there. So I'm gonna be honest, like 80% of the picture you see on Olo band, it's like a fake Photoshop, right? So it's a Olo band that we put the image on it, just to visually to show you. The new photos are coming in. People kind of DM me like, oh, that's fake and this and that.
But that's completely normal when you don't have a product in hand, and
you know
every
it.
single business does this.
People don't know that, right?
Correct.
People say,
Everyone's looking for the flaws in something.
Exactly.
Listen, this is the story. It's on the goddamn ship. It's going to be over here soon. We're going
Right.
to throw it in the mail. You're going to have it in 3 days after we get it, and that's it.
Right. So there was like different, like when people are kind of like, oh, like that's fake and this and that. I say I get it. The page we had it was, so go back to that. I always are a big fan of startups. So we were working on, since 2015, we were working on these products, actually making a noodle with 100% vegetables. So we deeply involved in the product, and we worked all that, how to kind of bring the product to the market, just having like a healthy ramens, but it's made 100% out of the vegetables. So we were working on all that, and we created a page and product for that. So when pandemic hit, when we pivoted, we still put the products kind of like put it on the side for right now, and we went all about. We changed the product page information because we want to acquire as many as people right away. So we don't want to waste.
You have that audience built in already.
Exactly. So the audience are built in already, and you pretty much sell anything. Everybody use sanitizer, so we don't have a specific target. Like I know that people say like, oh, like you guys have all these audiences. Like we had all these like since years ago. We had all these. Well, like listen, that's what I say tell people. Like when you're limited, you get creative. Like when you have no choice, you kind of make a different choice. So not everything you see. So my goal is today to get a product and make sure it's functional and working. Do you see everything from the Instagram? It's a real? I would say like no. Like there are a lot of pictures there. It's just to give you how they work. It's all computer generated images, but our real products are already. We started to get posts actually 2 weeks ago, and we started to delete some of these. I understand it. Sometimes people kind of get pissed and so on. But remember, in this entrepreneurship world, you have to start somewhere. You can't worry about like getting all these 100% correct. It same goes to like when I wanted to, every people buy the product, we try to channel the money, and I work with the lady. Her name is Michelle Adam. It's called On the Line, charity from Hastings. So we try to figure out like kind of like giving back. So we take money from Olo, we're channeling that money to all these like a restaurant workers family. So I found this lady online, Michelle Adams. She's working with us to create a food pantry program in a kind of a down county in pretty much in a Pleasantville, in Mount Kisco, whatever family that lost a job, where are the waiters and so on, right? And we found this young lady and we tried to figure out like how to channel some of this money. And it's not as easy because whenever you give free money away to the charity, you have to go through approval of all these committees and so on because they have to document all the money coming through their channel. So, people always ask me like, hey, where are you guys paying? Where are you guys getting? I know that, every $17.99 all band sold, we're channeling some portion of money to this, right? So we're working in all this, but it's not all easy, like it's not kind of a straight answer. Like I wanted to give it away, but like donations are like usually charity, they say like, listen, we need to get approval from all these to channel your money properly, so it's all work in progress.
Rightfully so. Cool. Tell them what the website is for the Olo bands.
It's oloband.com.
Boom. There you have it.
Oloband.com.
Nooms.
Guys, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button because, algorithms.